North Texas Executive Advisor to the board, and it is my honor to introduce to you Sandi Mitchell, our keynote speaker for this afternoon. Sandi is dedicating her time to us and donating her time to us as a professional speaker, as a gift to us. She is a phenomenal speaker and author. I met her through the International Coaching Federation. She's also an executive coach. And we're in for a real treat. She's very passionate about helping individuals grow in their leadership skills and really helping us understand the science behind what works. So at this time, I'm going to introduce Sandi.
Here's what I want you to do. Just pull yourself into small groups, and I want you to take, whoever has a piece of paper, you're the scribe, and I want you to, so, let's say no more than like 5 people. Your goal in 3 minutes is to list as many things as possible that everybody in that group is, has done, has been. All right? And it's a competition. 3 minutes. Ready? Go. All right, come back. Come back to me. Come back. All right. So, how was that? Why was it fun? So you found out interesting things about other people. What else?
We're more similar than different.
We're more similar than different. What did you say?
Common goals, so we constantly bring out new ideas.
Yeah, common goals. So part of what we're talking about today is conversational intelligence. And I have to tell you, I am a neuroscience geek, so I'm going to geek out on you for the next 45 minutes. Is that okay?
Yes.
So one of the things that we find, have you heard of the amygdala? The amygdala hijack, right? So the amygdala sits right on the top of your brainstem. It's the one that, as soon as it goes into a room, it immediately goes into overdrive. Are they like me or are they not like me? Are they friend, are they foe? Can I survive this or do I need to run? So part of doing an exercise like this, and this, I gave you 3 minutes, right? In 3 minutes, look how many things you came up with that are similar to everybody else. So, who had more than 5 items?
We have more 5.
Excellent. Who had more than 7? All right. Who had more than 10? Excellent. Okay, let's see how many did y'all have? 16. How many did y'all have? 20? We got 20? So we have a 20 off here. All right. So now what I want is, so one of the things that I think is really hysterical about this are the kinds of things that come up. There's other people who said we've all ridden a Harley motorcycle, right? There's other people who said we've all been to Bali, right? So there's all these crazy things. So what I want you to do, the 3 biggest ones, give me what's one of the most interesting things that you had on your list?
We like our friends' pets, don't want our own. We don't have time to have
I don't want to have my own pet, so I love all my friends' pets. What's an interesting one y'all have?
All foodies.
All foodies? I love it. How about y'all? What's one interesting one you had?
We're all under 6 feet.
Oh, we're all under 6 feet tall. Did anybody else have one that was that you've got to share?
We're multilingual.
They're all multilingual? That's cool. Who else? Yes.
We've all tried kimchi, the Korean sandwich.
All tried kimchi. Who else has tried kimchi? Yeah. I'm kind of thinking that may be cheating. Yes.
We all worked in different countries.
All worked in different countries? I love it. Was there a hand over here? You're all competitive? Amen, sister. Okay, cool. So normally I have prizes, but I forgot. So, those 10 of you, I'm assuming there were 5 in each group. I know some people were not paying attention to the rules. If y'all would come up and get a business card, I'll send you. So here's one of the things that she's talking about. I've got a couple of those, but this one I think is really cool. It's about emotional intelligence, and I was an art major, so you color on one side. Here's some neuroscience geekiness. When you color, your brain goes into a meditative state, unless you're anal retentive, and then it freaks you out to color. But your brain goes into a calming state, and then you read the questions about this emotional intelligence skill, so you can increase it a little bit more. So those are your prizes. We'll send those to you. All right, cool. So let's talk a little bit about conversational intelligence. Has anybody heard the term or read the book? Yay! Excellent. So Judith Glaser she is a neuroscientist, and she has, one of the things that I love about her, I've been doing leadership, culture, communication for, I'm going to say years, we'll just leave it here. And one of the things that she says that I think is really cool is that the greatness of our companies and who we are depends on the level of or the quality of our culture, which depends on the quality of our relationships, which totally depends on the quality of our conversations. So conversational intelligence is about how well do you have conversations. So who thinks they are like, who feel like you're kind of a master at conversations? You are? Cool.
Not masters, but I feel like I'm just very talkative. I feel like I can always find like something to connect with somebody.
Yeah.
Some random thing, I don't know.
Yeah.
It could be like, we both like the color of the wall.
Who knew we both like the sky? Yeah, there's all kinds of ways to like it, right? So here's one of the things that I want to give you. I'm going to give you a framework and probably one tool. I have two tools in here, but y'all were late because I heard you didn't want to leave lunch. So what I'll do is, if you're interested, give me your business card. Just put PowerPoint on your business card, or tell me somehow that you want it, and I'll send you the deck. All right. So there are 3 levels of conversation. The first one is transactional. So the transactional, so tell me just by the name, what do you think it means?
Give and take.
Give and take? Yeah, good. What else? Get the job done? Absolutely.
It is linear.
It's linear. Yeah, absolutely. So transactional is all about, I'm going to tell you what you need to know. I may let you ask a question, but it's got to be relevant to the direction that I say we're going. All right. So it's all about tell and ask. Would you like a little demonstration of what that is? Okay. So has anybody seen the movie Clue?
Yes.
It's a little older than a few of you, but it's funny.
Mr. Molly! He's attacking her!
No, he's dead.
Mr. Boddy, dead. Again.
Oh, my God.
She's going to faint. Sonny, catch her! I'll catch him. Fall into my arms. Sorry.
You've got blood on your hands.
I didn't do it! He's got new injuries. Well, he's certainly dead now. Why would anyone want to kill him twice?
Seems so unnecessary.
That's what we call overkill. What we call psychotic.
Unless he wasn't dead before.
What's the difference? That's what we're trying to find out. We're trying to find out who killed him, and where, and with what.
There's no need to shout.
I'm not shouting! All right, I am. I'm shouting, I'm shouting, I'm shouting!
People who are in this level 1, if you're not buying into what they have to say, they're going to keep saying it louder and louder and louder until you just say, okay, I'll do what you want. Right? So level 1, but there are advantages and disadvantages to both. You can probably guess some of the disadvantages. What are they? What's a disadvantage of being tell-cell? Yeah.
Alienate somebody.
Say it again?
Lose rapport.
You'll lose rapport, absolutely.
Intimidation.
Intimidation, great. There was something over here.
Alienate.
Yelling it? Yeah, absolutely.
And
But what would
tuning out.
advantage?
Tuning out.
Yeah, people tune out, absolutely. But what would advantage be?
You get what you want.
You get what you want.
Or nothing
Short
at all.
time anyway. Yeah.
You make sure you're heard.
Make sure you're heard.
Faster.
It can be done faster and for a short period of time. Right? Because if you ever worked for a boss that yells all the time, most people, especially millennials, say, no. And they walk out. Right, so let's go to level 2. So level 2 is, now we're going to start to exchange information. So if it's positional, what does that sound like? Say it again.
Follow.
Not, maybe more hierarchical, could be a debate, negotiation, yeah.
It will easily turn into a conversation because you're not just doing it on.
Yeah, it could, right? It could either go into adversarial or it could go into a good conversation, absolutely. So this group, when y'all said negotiation, this really is about, okay, how do I negotiate? How do I influence people to do it the way I want to do it? So how do I advocate for it? How do I inquire? How do I ask those questions, right, that will, like, how many of you have kids? So you know that you can ask questions that will lead them to the answer you want. That's kind of what this one can do, right? So you want to see something about, you know, how we negotiate? Quick little video. Anybody seen The Big Bang Theory before?
The problem appears to be unsolvable. Maybe we could run some computer simulations.
There are too many variables. It would take forever.
We've got to be missing something. Let's start again. The movie is playing here at 7:20, here at 7:40, here at 8:10, and here at 8:45.
All right, these theaters have to be eliminated.
Why? They're state-of-the-art, digital projection, 20-channel surround sound.
Yes, but they have no icy machines. Despite my aggressive letter writing campaign, I might add.
What about the multiplex here? The seats are terrific.
They have Twizzlers instead of red vines. No amount of lumbar support can compensate for that.
Well, it's going to take at least an hour to eat, and I don't see a Sheldon-approved restaurant proximate to a Sheldon-approved theater.
We could eat after the movie.
Unacceptable. The delay would result in tomorrow morning's bowel movement occurring at work.
Hang on. There's a 7-Eleven here. We smuggle Slurpees, which are essentially ices, in under our coats after having a pleasant meal either here, or here.
Wow. I don't see how we missed that.
Excuse me, in what universe are Slurpees ices?
That's how we missed it.
Sheldon, would you be prepared on a non-presidential basis to create an emergency ad hoc Slurpee icy equivalency?
Oh, Leonard, you know I can't do that.
Okay, I guess we only have one option.
Yep, I don't see any way around it.
Bye, Sheldon.
See ya.
They'll do it.
They're right, it was the only option.
Sometimes the best tool in a negotiation is the walk away. All right, and then the third level is transformational. So when I say transformational, what does that engender in your brains? Change, absolutely. What else? Collaboration, yes, exactly. So this one we're all talking about how do we join? How do we get 1 + 1 = 5? Right? The others are really, the first one is really focused on, I'm telling you the way it needs to go. The second one is, okay, well, let's talk about it. We're still going to end up with the way I want, but I'm supposed to listen to you, so let me ask you some questions, and let's figure out what we need to do. This one is, how do we actually do it together? Right? So would you like to see a little something about how groups work together?
It's smarter to travel in groups.
great to work in groups. So the 3 styles, so Conversational Intelligence, it's a book. If you love books, go check out the book, listen to it, the Audible is really good. This is kind of the basis of what she talks about. What are the 3 levels of conversation? And as you're having conversations, so here's, because I always like to give homework, right? So here's your homework. I want you to pay attention this next week. What level of conversation are you most comfortable in? There's a lot of people who are a lot more comfortable in these 2. It takes intention to focus on this. You're not going to be in this all the time, right? There's always times where you have to say, okay, you go do this, you go do this. But the more we can get collaboration, people think it's longer, right? That it takes a longer time to have collaboration. Does anybody have an example of something where collaboration actually caused a shorter amount of time? Yes? Oh, here.
Oh, I can talk loud.
I
Can
don't know where
everybody
it
hear
is.
me now? Second?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
Just stand up.
Oh, okay. So, hi, I'm Deborah Martin. I work for American Airlines, and I'm a senior project manager. And as you know, projects typically have a beginning and an end. And a lot of times the challenge is, how do we get to the end from the beginning? And you have to work as a group. And you usually have a couple roles of developers, business analysts, testers, and we all have all these activities that we're assigned to along the way to get to the end of the project. And a lot of times, your teams, you'll find that, oh God, I don't want to, it's going to take forever for us to do this. You're going to give it to me, it's going to be linear, right? And then you give it a handoff and handoff and handoff, and then by the time you get to the end, all this time has elapsed. So, collaboration, by way of leveraging that method, we found that if we get in like those ants did, and we started collaborating, right? Oh, you know what, I can help you. You don't have to wait for me to get done here, and because this person is multifunctional, right? So I can step back here and do this, and you're not going to get to me until later. So by the time we're done here, I can go back to my other spot, and I can help and keep the train moving when I get my turn actually comes up. So the collaborating and coming back and forth and saying, hey, I can fill in here, I can fill there, and then you participate in those efforts along the way, and you arrive to the end a lot faster.
And better.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Give her a hand. Good.
And here's my card because I want the PowerPoint.
Okay.
All right, that done.
So one of the ways, we talk about it here is, how do we ask questions? And then here, you want to ask questions that you don't have the answers to, which is why I had the exercise in the beginning, because you had to ask questions that you had no idea if anybody else did the same thing you did, right? So what I want to do is I'm going to give you a tool called Acknowledging and Validating. This is an executive coaching tool that we use that you can master this. You're going to practice this in the class. It'll be fun. So Stephen Covey says most people don't listen to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. So you think about that. So that immediately puts people into that level 1 conversation. Because I'm not really paying attention to what you're saying. I'm just waiting for breaks so that I can jump in and tell you what I want you to know. Right? So here's another video.
It's just, there's all this pressure, And sometimes it feels like it's right up on me, and I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head, and it's relentless, and I don't know if it's gonna stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me the most, is that I don't know if it's ever gonna stop.
Yeah. Well, you do have a nail in your head.
It is not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I'll bet if we got that out of there...
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing...
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
No, see, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail
See, you're
out.
not even listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just... Sometimes it's like there's this achy I don't know what it is. And I'm not sleeping very well at all. And all my sweaters are snagged. I mean, all of them.
That sounds really hard.
It is. Thank you. Ow!
Come on, if you would just...
Don't!
Try to see things my way.
How many times do you actually see the answer to the problem, but they don't want to hear it? Right? So here's a tool you can use. It's called acknowledging and validating. So acknowledging is, it's a way to kind of repeat back what they said in a way that they understand that you got it. It's not saying the exact same thing, right? If he had said, I totally understand that all of your sweaters are snagged, she would be like, yeah, all he was doing was listening for that. But when he said it's hard, right? So if you can put in an emotion, of course, it's got to be hard and frustrating when all of your clothes are being snagged, right? So validating lets somebody know that they have the right to feel that way. So here's kind of the, see, I think I may even have it up here. The two phrases, the easy way to say this is, of course you feel blank, and you put in the emotion that you think they're feeling, because that gives them the opportunity to say, no, I'm not feeling that. Or it really makes them feel like you really understand me. And then you say, because anyone in your situation, and you say what the situation is, your sweaters are all snagged, would feel that way. Here's the thing, by phrasing it that way, you don't have to agree with what they're saying. But what it's doing is it's telling them, you're listening to me, you're not listening to jump in. So when people get louder and louder and louder, many times it's because they don't feel heard. This phrase gives them the opportunity to say, oh, okay, she understands how I feel. So they can calm down, and then they can participate in the conversation rather than being all level one. Does that make sense? Does that sound interesting to you? So let's practice. So here's some of the ways that acknowledging, these are some of the phrases that you can start. So what I hear you saying is, how many of you, well, you may not want to raise your hand, has anybody known anyone who has gone through therapy before? I don't like to use this phrase because it sounds like therapy to me. You could also say, well, in other words, what I'm hearing you say is, or in other words, or it sounds like that's really hard. Or what you're telling me is, or of course. Right? And then in validating, you want to say, of course you feel that way. If I had a nail in my head, it would be hard. So that makes sense, right? You have the right to feel that way because, or anyone in your situation would feel like that. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. Pair off, pick one person. That means two people together. Pick one person and just have the person that has the longest hair, you do a 10, 15 second complaint. And then the person with the shortest hair, acknowledge and validate them. And then we'll flip it. So how was that? Come back. So how was that? Was it first, let me ask the people, when you were giving the acknowledging and validating, who felt completely comfortable doing that? A couple of you? Okay, cool. Because most of us were like, wow, that's hard to say that out loud. Yeah, but when you heard it, how did it feel? It felt good. It really does. Even though you know they're just practicing on me. It still feels good, right? So taking this tool, it's a really powerful tool when you're talking to someone who is frustrated. How many of you ever had somebody on your team that you're talking with, even if it's your leader, that's frustrated? Right? This little tool is so powerful. It immediately gets you out of level 1 into level 2. It gets it to that point where you can start actually having a conversation rather than having them just be frustrated and yell or totally shut down. Right? You ever had somebody on a team that just, all right, I'm done, I'm not talking. Yes, please.
Sometimes when you're trying to validate, it comes across like a person you don't understand, or sometimes it comes across like a person with, rough around the edges. And in all honesty, you're actually trying to validate, and it doesn't go well with everyone.
Yeah, so what happens if your validation goes wrong? What would you think happens if the validation goes wrong? Okay, so the person's irritated. What else? Somebody's offended. What else? Viewpoints being minimized. What I find is that most of the time people are like, no, that's not quite it. What it is. So I find that most people, when I try, because when I do this, I am authentic. I want to reflect back to them what they're saying. So when they pick up that authenticity, they're like, no, it's not that I'm mad, it's that I'm scared. A lot of times with that fight or flight, right, for people who come across as fighters, they're not mad, they may be really scared. So they come across as I'm going to fight, when they're really, it's like, I don't know if this is going to succeed or not. But when you pinpoint an emotion or you state, of course that makes sense that you're doing this, because they're like, that's not quite right. What I really meant to say was. So it gives them the opportunity to pause as well and say, okay, well, if you're hearing that, that's not what I meant. What I meant was, so it gives them the opportunity to rephrase.
Follow-up question. Sometimes it tends to make people feel that they didn't frame the question well. They feel inferior down and then they reverse, but majority of the population feel the way you just said, but there is a slight chance of the population who feel like he just made me feel down. How do you feel?
Yeah, so what happens if you, as the validator, feel less than, right? Okay, so it didn't work, so obviously I didn't do it right. It's not about you. This is about the other person. So if they say, no, that's not right, it really is this, then you're like, okay, thanks for clarifying. Because when you can take yourself out of it, then you don't have to be the one that's listening to interrupt. Right? It's really hard. So the more you practice, so there's more homework. I want you to do at least 3 acknowledge and validate this next week. Yes?
How do you know when you're validating the wrong thing? Let's say you witnessed an event and your friend was not complaining to you about the event, but you know that your friend was wrong. So right at that point of time, if you validate that something, then you might be doing harm in the long run.
So it's, yeah, so if there is, so like, do you have a situation?
I mean, let's say I saw one of my friends fighting with someone else.
Yes.
And I immediately saw that my friend was wrong by fighting. Now that my friend is coming and complaining to me about it, just take off his chest or anything.
Yes.
And I'm validating that it's understandable how you feel, that makes sense. So you're validating the wrong thing, right? And it might be...
No, I don't think you are validating the wrong thing. So the scenario, if you didn't hear it, was what happens if 2 people are fighting, you're the one that has observed the fight, and one of them is your friend, and they come and they complain to you about what's going on. So what if you validate the wrong thing? First, I think when you say something like, well, of course you felt upset. Anybody in your shoes could have. That's the first thing I do. So I'm going to give you an advanced tool. So the advanced tool is, and what do you think the other person was feeling? So you acknowledge and validate what they felt, because you're not saying, you stupido, you're wrong. You're saying, of course you felt angry. Because in his mind, he feels angry. Because as soon as you say that, then he can calm down. Then you can say, what do you think the other person was feeling? Or what do you think caused the other person to do something? So here's a freebie. When you say the word why, when you phrase a question in the term why, emotion rises. So why can become very defensive unless you want to inspire people. So there's a few ways I would want to use why. You would want it, how do I rephrase it from the question of what? Instead of why are you doing it, right? That immediately makes people feel like, oh God, I can't, I gotta build walls. But instead if you say something like, so what do you think happened to cause this? Then it goes from the emotional side of the brain into the logical side of the brain. All right, so I've
I have a
got.
quick question.
Okay, so here's the thing. I've got like 30 seconds, yeah, to wrap this up. So I'm going to be here the rest of the day, and I'll be here at the reception. So I'm going to flip through all of this because you're going to see all this. But let me say, yeah. So what the words that we choose to use, it really creates the culture that we surround ourselves in. So really think about what kind of questions you're asking, how are you listening, and how are you participating in conversations where you feel like it's a win-win for both of us. Thank you very much for playing with me today.